Welcome to the Gathering Online. My name is Alana, and we're so glad that you're joining us today. At the Gathering, it is our mission to learn to live and love like Jesus. And if that interests you, hit the subscribe button below. We also provide an experience for your children, and that is through our Family Ministries Director, Johanna. If you want to access that, find that in the description below as well. Today, we're going to continue our series called Way Back, Playback, which gives honest expression to the human experience. But before we dive into that, we're going to prepare our hearts and minds by singing together.
Do you feel the world is broken?
We do.
Do you feel the shadows deepen?
We do.
Do you know that all the dark won't stop the light from getting through?
We do.
Do you wish that you could see it all made new?
We do.
It's all creation groaning.
It
Is a new creation coming?
It
Is the glory of the Lord to be the light within our midst?
It
And is it good that we remind ourselves of this?
It is.
Is anyone worthy? Is anyone whole? Is anyone able to break the seal and open the scroll? The Lion of Judah, who conquered the grave. He is David's root and the Lamb who died to ransom the slave. Is he worthy? Is he worthy of all blessing and honor and glory? Is he worthy of this? Does the Father truly love us?
He does.
Does the Spirit move among us?
He does.
And does Jesus, our Messiah, hold forever those he loves?
He does.
Does our God intend to dwell again with us? He does. Is anyone worthy? Is anyone whole? Is anyone able to break the seal and open the scroll? The Lion of Judah, who conquered the grave. He is David's root and the Lamb who died to ransom the slave. From every people and tribe, every nation and tongue, he has made us a kingdom and priest to God, to reign with his Son. Is he worthy? me the kindness of mercy that bought with blood wholeheartedly my soul undeserving. God, you're so good. God, you're so good. God, you're so good. You're so good to me.
Behold the cross, age to age, and hour by hour. The dead are raised, the sinners saved, the work of your power.
God, you're so good.
God,
You're so good.
God, you're so good. You're so good to me.
And
God, you're so good. Oh God, you're so good. God, you're so good. You're so good to me. I am blessed, I am cold, I am healed, I am whole, I am saved in Jesus' name. Highly favored, anointed, filled with your power for the glory, Jesus' name. I am blessed, I am cold, I am healed, I am whole, I am saved in Jesus' name. Highly favored, anointed, filled with your power for the glory, Jesus' name.
And should this life bring suffering, Lord, I will remember what Calvary has bought for me, both now and forever. God, you're so good. God, you're so good. God, you're so good. You're so good to me.
When my oldest brother Mike got married, their wedding reception included something that, well, I had never really seen before. Instead of only having just a father-daughter dance, they added a mother-son dance as well. For the dance, my mom chose a song by Rascal Flatts' country group called My Wish. The lyrics for the song say things like, "My wish for you is that this life becomes all that you want it to. Your dreams stay big, your worries stay small. You never need to carry more than you can hold. And while you're out there getting where you're getting to, I hope you know somebody loves you and wants the same things too. Yeah, this is my wish." Yeah, it was a beautiful moment to watch, and it was a moment that actually got repeated at all 5 of my mom's sons' weddings, including mine. It was this wish for the kind of life that she hoped her son could live out with his new bride. If you have kids, it's pretty easy to connect with this idea. You start wondering and dreaming and hoping and wishing for the kind of life that your children will lead. And even if you don't have kids, you're more than likely able to still connect with this. I mean, wishing for your own future life and what it'll be like, and for the lives of the people that you love. You wish that maybe their worries could stay small, and that they might know that someone loves them. Well, today we're going to continue down our Way Back Playback playlist with Psalm 72. And the title that, if I could retitle it from Psalm 72, the title I would give it would be Our Wish. This psalm was originally the wish of a parent for their child. Now, in this particular setting, it's the wish of a current king for his son who's going to eventually take his place as king. And there are 3 movements in this song that we're going to kind of work our way through. There's the implications of this wish locally, the implications globally, and then finally, ultimately. But first, let's just read the poem together. Psalm 72 of Solomon. Endow the king with your justice, O God, the royal son with your righteousness. May he judge your people in righteousness, your afflicted ones with justice. May the mountains bring prosperity to the people, the hills the fruit of righteousness. May he defend the afflicted among the people and save the children of the needy. May he crush the oppressor. May he endure as long as the sun, as long as the moon, through all generations. May he be like rain falling on a mown field, like showers that water the earth. In his days may the righteous flourish and prosperity abound till the moon is no more. And then the move to the more global impact. May he rule from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth. May the desert tribes bow before him and his enemies lick the dust. May the kings of Tarshish and of distant shores bring tribute to him. May the kings of Sheba and Seba present him with gifts. May all kings bow down to him and all nations serve him. For he will deliver the needy who cry out, the afflicted who have no one to help. He will take pity on the weak and the needy and save the needy from death. He will rescue them from oppression and violence, for precious is their blood in his sight. Long may he live. May gold from Sheba be given to him. May people ever pray for him and bless him all day long. May grain abound throughout the land, and on the tops of hills or mountains may it sway. May the crops flourish like Lebanon and thrive like the grass of the field. May his name endure forever. May it continue as long as the sun. Then all nations will be blessed through him, and they will call him blessed. And then the ultimate. Praise be to the Lord God, the God of Israel, who alone does marvelous deeds. Praise be to his glorious name forever. May the whole earth be filled with his glory. Amen and amen. This concludes the prayers of David, son of Jesse. Again, this song has 3 parts. What the wish means locally, globally, and then ultimately. But let's start with locally. This father wishes to God that his son would grow up to rule right, that he would lead with God's view of justice and righteousness. Now, in case you're wondering, well, what does God's view of justice and righteousness look like? Well, he outlines it. He says, I wish that my son would judge your people in righteousness. Now that kind of seems like an odd thing to say, so just let me help as we continue. The word for judge here actually has a real deep depth of meaning. When he says judge, he means decide to model and mandate right living. The wish is not for his son to sort of wear a wig and a black robe and sit in a courtroom all day. That's not what he means by judge. But the wish is that he would lead people in right living, which is defined as achieving justice for afflicted ones. The afflicted ones, the Hebrew word for that, are those, it refers to those in society who are at a disadvantage, either relationally or financially or materially or racially. They're at a disadvantage for any variety of reasons. And this is actually going to be the theme for this first part of the song. You want to know what it looks like to rule right? It means you lead people by example, by defending the needy and those who lack resources, by rescuing the children of poor people and caring for their necessities. It's amazing that the wish of this father is that when his son becomes king and takes over the throne, that he would lead the kingdom by using his power to serve the powerless, the lowest in society, that he wouldn't be tempted like every other leader and king in his own day to exploit his own people in order to grow in power and wealth, but rather that he would use his possessions for the sake and his position for the sake of the powerless, for society's most vulnerable. His wish for his son is that he wouldn't just personally avoid exploiting the weak and vulnerable, but that he would also be the kind of king who is actively on the lookout, actively crushing anyone who seeks to abuse and exploit the disadvantaged, that he would be an advocate for them. This father also asks God that his son not be a hoarder or a miser, that he wouldn't be tight-fisted, but that he would be generous, that he would use all that he has for the benefit of others. May he be like falling rain that showers the earth in order to produce an abundance of crops so that all people can flourish and prosperity can abound. I hope that he will be generous so that everyone can prosper. Now, the word for prosperity here is actually the Hebrew word shalom. It's the word for peace, but it doesn't mean peace in the sense of like no war. It's more like a universal peace that describes a reality in which everyone has what they need. And so that psalmist pleads poetically with God. My wish for my son is that he would use his position for the powerless, that he would lead in a generous way that causes all people to flourish and live at peace, having everything that they need. That's my wish for you, my son, for the kind of life you will have and the kind of leader you will be. Now, the second movement is about how the implications of that kind of local leadership will impact things globally, how leveraging your position to serve the powerless, how that will ripple out globally. Look at what he says in verse 8. He says, I wish for him to rule everything and everywhere, from sea to sea. I hope the desert tribes bow before him, that those who were his enemies might lick the dust. Now, he doesn't actually mean that he hopes that they will lick the dust, but it's a description of a posture of submission, being bowed down so low to the ground that you appear to put your mouth right on the dirt. I hope that kings of other lands will bring you gifts of gold. In other words, that they would submit their resources to you, and that they will all bow down and submit their very lives to you in service. Which kind of seems crazy. It's almost like a scene out of an action movie, right? I mean, think Star Wars for a second. All the planets of the galaxy will bend the knee to the Emperor for one reason and one reason only. Fear. Resistance would be death. You see, global domination is usually only achieved through a conquest of violence and war. And if that's really the justice and righteousness of God, who wants that? But it's not. Keep reading. I mean, why on earth would every king on earth come and pledge allegiance to this king? Why would they pledge their resources to this king? Why would they pledge their very lives in service to him? Is it because of some threat? Is it because he's got nukes? Is it because of his power and the strength of his military? Or the superior technology or intellect or some fierce war machine? I mean, how is he going to achieve this world domination? The poet says, may all kings bow down and every nation serve for. In other words, because of how you deliver the needy who cry out for help. In other words, here's what will unite the world. Love. How you help those in society who have no one to help them. The kings of the world are going to pledge allegiance because of the way you take pity on those who are weak and in need, and you rescue them from violence and the oppression of others. And because of the way that you take care of the least of these. You see, my wish for you, son, says the poet, is that you would live and lead in such a way that even the lowest of the low can flourish in your kingdom and have everything that they need. I mean, what an astounding display of leadership that would be. It would be so countercultural that the world would take notice. A national leader who saw their role as being a servant to society's most afflicted, who displayed in their life day in and day out that the lives of the oppressed were precious to him. That's my wish for you, son, says the poet. And that's something that the world would take note of. And they would long for it in their own kingdoms and countries. A flourishing for all people. They would long for it so much that they would seek to join you and pledge their lives to you. Your impact locally would gain global influence. And then, in case it hadn't already, the wish starts to lift off and go from not just local and global, but it starts to take flight. And although at this point it's sort of been, well, idealistic, it's been mostly grounded in reality, but now the wish starts to take off and become unrealistic. May people bless him all day long. May grain grow and sway on mountaintops. May you agriculturally thrive like Lebanon. May your name endure forever and everyone be blessed through you. I mean, that sounds nice, but there's a problem here. Grain fields aren't planted on mountaintops. You can't plant in that kind of soil. And Israel can't produce the same kind of fruit as Lebanon because it doesn't have the same resources. It's not the same climate. It's not the same land. It's not the same soil. It's not Lebanon. Which leads us to the third movement of the song. First was local, then global, but now the ultimate implication of the wish. Praise be to God who alone can be that kind of king. Praise be to God who alone can do those kinds of things. It's like the poet arrives at this place where he says, I wish. I guess ultimately I'm wishing for something that you won't be able to do, son. That no human political system can capture. I guess I'm wishing for something that really only God can do. To use his power to save those who don't have the power to save themselves. To care for the poor, the needy, and the oppressed. To use love rather than war to win others over. And ultimately, to unite people from every tribe and tongue. I mean, there is no earthly political system that could pull this off. But when you put it this way, it does start to sound a lot like a carpenter turned traveling rabbi from the first century, doesn't it? I mean, if you think about it, isn't this exactly what Jesus did? I mean, he came and he used his power to save those who couldn't save themselves. That's the message of the gospel. That's the core of the Christian faith, recognizing that there's nothing you can do to save yourself. Now, Jesus' day wasn't all that different from our day. I mean, humanity has always attempted, one way or another, to achieve our own redemption. Perhaps you do it through religious adherence. You believe that if I just do the right things and I pray the right prayers and I follow the right rules and I become the right kind of person, then God and others will have to accept me. Or perhaps you do it through something irreligious. Maybe you do it through personal self-expression. You believe that if I'm just true to myself and I give expression to my deepest desires and I fulfill who I really am, then God and others will have to accept me. Which is still a form of religious adherence, by the way. It just comes with different values, different rules, and different beliefs. But the problem is that both of those ventures are doomed to fail. Because they're self-centered. And they will always lead you to mistreat and exclude others. But the gospel message, it says that, well, actually none of us can save ourselves. We're all saved by grace. Jesus died to pay the price for for my sins, so that I could be forgiven, so that you could be accepted. You see, you don't have to live your life demanding or trying to earn the acceptance and approval of other people. You already have it from God by grace. And that grace frees you. It frees you up to do the things you wish for the world. It frees you up to care for the poor, the needy, the disadvantaged, the oppressed in society. Let me explain. Here's how the gospel message, how the gospel frees you. You see, if you're a religious person, caring for the poor and needy in society becomes your religious duty. In order to prove yourself to your fellow religious adherents and ultimately to your version of God, you have to do these things. You have to care, which is actually inherently selfish. You're only doing it in order to gain their approval, and it also means you're not free. You're a slave to the applause of your religion. And if you're not a religious person, the same still happens. I mean, caring for the poor and needy becomes a way to prove to yourself or other people that you're a good person, or a woke person, or a conscientious person. In other words, you're actually still a slave, either to your own approval or to the approval of others. In both cases, while people might get helped in the process, and that's a good thing, you are still acting out of a selfish motive, in a need to bolster your own sense of identity. And that's always going to lead you to hurt or exclude others. But the gospel of Jesus Christ frees you from all of that. The gospel says, you know what? I'm a part of the problem. I am a selfish and sinful person. And yet Jesus loved me so much that he gave his life for me. And because of him, God calls me his beloved child. God says, I'm good even though I'm not good. God says to you, you're good even though you're not good. And that means you're free to actually care for the poor and the needy, the oppressed and the afflicted. You don't have to do it in order to bolster your own identity or to prove to yourself or to somebody else that you're a good person. You don't have to do it in order to achieve the approval of whatever whim culture is celebrating at the moment. You don't have to do it simply so that you can post about it on social media and feel better about yourself. Instead, you can actually care selflessly for those in need, simply because it's what Jesus did for you. And do you know what's amazing about that? Is that kind of love and caring for others, that kind of selflessness, that's really attractive in winning people over. It's far more attractive than trying to guilt people or shame people or shout at people or coerce people into some sort of behavior. Jesus didn't have to coerce people or guilt them or threaten them with hell. That's not what our King is like. He didn't have to use violence and war to unite the nations. He didn't have to use fear. Instead, he used self-sacrificing love. If the kingdom of God is a place where everyone can flourish, where everything is the way that it's supposed to be, and you enter by grace, a place where society's most vulnerable have what they need, I mean, who wouldn't want to be a part of that? Jesus didn't have to wage war. He chose love. He chose to treat everyone, including me, including you, as though our lives were precious to him. Everyone. And I mean, the New Testament, read the New Testament for yourself. The New Testament church is a great picture of that. Ultimately, people from every tribe and tongue were united by one thing: the love of Jesus. And so here's my wish for you. May you know that love, the love of the King, Jesus, who saved you. May you find the freedom in that to pledge your resources and your life to serve, not out of guilt or shame or coercion or any other kind of motivation, not to please anyone or for the applause or approval of anybody, but freely. And may you remember that ultimately, there is no political system on earth that can accomplish what Jesus has and will. In our context here in the U.S., our identity needs to be Christian. Sinner saved by grace. You might vote Republican, you might vote Democrat, but those things are not your identity. Jesus follower is your identity. Your only allegiance is not to a flag or any kind of earthly political system. It's to the kingdom of God. And so, friends, may you long for that as you live in this. Now, you may be wondering to yourself, well, Corey, how do we live here as we long for there, the kingdom? Well, long after this psalm was written, originally as a wish for a father for his son's life, it was then included in the Hebrew Psalter, and it was sung by Israelite people as a prayer for their king. But it's impossible to pray this for your leader without also praying it for your own life. And so this is where we'll land today. If this is a wish, my question for you and to discuss with the people around you is, what do you wish for in this world? And if you're a follower of Jesus, knowing that you've been saved by grace alone, how might you use your position for the lives of the powerless? How might you begin living out this longing for the kingdom in your own life? What could you do for someone today that you wish for everyone tomorrow? And with that, I want to close with a prayer. Father in heaven, I pray that you would, knowing that you see all of this brokenness in this world, I pray that you would bring restoration. And until that day comes, I pray that by the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the power of your Holy Spirit, that you would cause us to be examples of that coming day in your kingdom, that someday that will be better than this day. And until that day comes, would you give us the eyes to see things as you do? And would you give us the courage to do the things that you would have us do? And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
You stood before creation, eternity in your hand. You spoke the earth into motion, my soul now to stand. You stood before my failing, carried the cross for my shame. My sin weighed upon your shoulders, my soul now to stand. What could I say? And what could I do? But offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. So I walk upon salvation, your spirit alive in me. It's life to declare your promise, my soul now to stand. So what could I say? And what could I do? But offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. And what could I say? And what could I do? So I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. And I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered. All I am is yours. And I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. And I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered. All I am is yours. And I'll stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. And I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered. All I am is yours. And all I am is yours. So what could I say? And what could I do but offer this heart, oh God, completely to you?
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you haven't already, we'd love to have you join our email list so you can stay connected with us in the coming weeks ahead. You can do that by sending an email to Corey@thecaledoniagathering.org. If you're interested in learning more about what it means to be part of this community, I encourage you to sign up for TCG 60, a 1-hour class in which you can learn all about why we exist, where we've been, and where we're headed in the future. And you can sign up for this also by sending an email to Corey@thecaledoniagathering.org. Lastly, I want to encourage you to begin your habit of giving with us today by going to thecaledoniagathering.org/giving. We don't encourage people to start giving with us because we think God needs your money or because we want something from you, but we want something rather for you. We believe that a regular practice of giving to your local church is one of the ways that our generous God shapes us to be generous people. It's also one of the ways that he invites you to join him in what he's doing already in the world, especially through his church. So head on over to thecaledoniagathering.org/giving to start your generosity journey today. We hope you've been blessed, and we'll close by singing the doxology together.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise him, all creatures here below. Praise him above the heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy